I mean, so essentially he kind of makes a team fight composition in his own right. I think without Kennen, I would have been massively favoring Bigetron here, but with Kennen being on Omega, I think things are a little more even. The only problem is you're lacking a little bit of damage until Kai'Sa comes online later on, whereas the damage from Bigetron is going to be ready to go pretty much off the bat. So I think it's going to be very Kennen reliant here. If Kennen doesn't do well or Kennen doesn't get a good first team fight off, I am scared for Omega. But for Bigetron, they've got the Aurelion Soul. If he gets Rylized, combine that with the Misfortunes bullet time, looking pretty spicy.
When I say a word, it goes from San Francisco, California, to Korea, where Dave is, and then back to the UK, where Excoundrel is. So if you're wondering why we're talking over each other occasionally, there are a solid, 5 seconds between the end of me saying something and Excoundrel hearing the last word.
Yeah, it's there is a rather large delay. Oh, wow, we got a very aggressive invade here.
I love it. Table Apps gets out of there real quick. Here's the boss music and backs away. Here is that from the opposite perspective. Bigetron on their screens, running in real aggressive, and then because they didn't instantly find anything, disengaging to a standard start. Was that the only point of it, just to see if they could find a pick?
I think they were just looking to go for a red side invade if no one was there, but it looks like we've got a double lane swap. It looks like either Bigetron or Omega read the lane swap, and we have executed a complete reversal of the map.
This is just normal again.
This is just normal again, except for the dragon lane is the furthest away from the dragon lane. The interesting thing for me here, though, is that it's Kennen mid. Something that we were... Oh, wait a second. Oh. The early Garen roam, baby.
It is an early Garen roam, as you say, leaving this Olaf all alone in lane, and First Blood passed over to Bigetron.
I mean,
Omega.
I mean, you absolutely take it because you put the Kennen into a pretty solid position, and a Kennen versus an Aurelion Soul, you're never going to clear those waves as quickly as an Aurelion Soul will. Even if Aurelion Soul gets ganked, he's already pushing Kennen back to the turret. This is one of the worries that we had when Kennen was released. Even though it makes sense from an ultimate perspective and a roam perspective to have Kennen in mid, the meta for mid laners generally tends to be high wave clear. The ability to push waves and like Evelyn, she's too busted at it, right? So she'll just clear a wave and roam, clear a wave and roam. The problem that you'll find, I think we just skipped forward just a little bit here because Aurelion Sol is dead again.
Yeah, we just lost the mid laner again.
Yeah. This is good. This is what you want.
Bigetron's mid laner, Henry, who did look so good on that Aurelion Sol during game number 2, already having a very rough time of it here. That was a 3-man gank, I believe, with the Lee Sin yet again being piloted by Impressive, reappearing into that mid lane.
Yeah, I think one of the things that you have to be aware of, and one of the things that especially in competitive play, or if you're in like duo, trio queue, for instance, I mean,
it's happening again.
It's happening again.
It's such a bad time.
He's having an
Harry will go down again. That's going to get worse as the support falls both Henry and Harry down in the mid lane for Bigetron. Omega building out a 4-0 lead in the kill feed during the first 2 minutes and 50 seconds of gameplay.
And Kennen has an absolute metric ton of that gold as well, which is insane because that first dragon fight, the one that Shyvana really wants to win, is going to be quite difficult now. It's going to be very difficult, especially if Slicing Maelstrom is coming off cooldown by the time that dragon fight comes through. One of the things that I wanted to talk about with this Aurelion Sol Kennen matchup, and one of the things that you have to be aware of as a mid laner in general, is that if you're playing in the mid lane and you're a heavy wave pusher, so you're going to shove those waves massively, you're going to end up at the enemy turret quickly, you are going to open yourselves to ganks. As we know, from this game, we've seen it already. And that's one of the problems that Aurelion Sol will have versus a high mobility jungler and the roam potential coming out from Omega here. If Aurelion Sol just pushes this Kennen in, Kennen has got self-realizing crowd control. Like, he could just do it himself, and then he just needs the jungler to come in and help. And that's what's been happening. Aurelion Sol is relatively low mobility. Obviously, he's got his massive roam, but that's not really good in the lane. So if Kennen could just land a stun... Exactly. If Kennen could just land a stun, you get a very easy follow-up from Lee Sin, and Aurelion Sol is a sitting duck, and that's what we've seen in the laning phase thus far.
And so watch Arise as we go forward. Arise is the mid laner for Omega, because they are playing a duelist champion, which has worked great with the gank pressure in that mid lane. And now as we get to team fights, you're going to start to see the team fight potential of Kennen. And I believe we may be getting an example right now as a skirmish develops around this drake.
Yeah, I think you can see 10 maps just waiting to clear that wave out, but it is that first dragon in the game. If Kennen can find an ultimate, that is what we're looking for. Keep your eyes on Arise. He is going to be the difference maker in this fight.
Timelapse hovering over the wall as Arise goes in behind them. And it looks like Bigetron are uncomfortable, and rightly so. Impressive will dive in. Glacial Fissure starts things off. There is the slicing Maelstrom. Not a whole lot of damage felt. All of Bigetron low, though. They'll be trying to make the turn off the back of this Shyvana, re-emerging from the jungle. But Impressive is just cleaning them up again. Control needs to find a 1v2, essentially. And Smart will put an end to that. A big team fight win there for Omega, but Bigetron, to their credit, make it close.
Right, so it's a complete, I think, 4 for 4 across the board here. But importantly, they did get Shyvana's Guardian Angel. People buy that, you know, to have the team fight win here. We're going to get a quick replay. Really, really beautiful knockup from the Alistar because it delayed the engage from the Kennen, and that meant that they were able to focus down the Kai'Sa much more readily and much more quickly than they would have been able to previously. Obviously, Shyvana's GA, you're seeing why GA is such an important item in the meta in Wild Rift. These early team fight wins are absolutely important, and that allowed them to go 4 for 4 overall. But it looks like off the back of that, we have another little pickup here onto the Alistar, and they're going to go straight for the Dragon.
Yeah, Bigetron with an excellent display of team fighting, and I would like to apologize I didn't catch that GA on the Shyvana. But excellent display of team fighting by Bigetron to make that trade even. And then they lose the Drake anyway, because a couple of picks go to Omega immediately off of the respawns. And so the first Drake of the game will be in Omega's pocket.
Yeah, you're seeing the power of Kennen as well. Like the team fight comp for Omega isn't exactly like stellar in its own right, but Kennen makes it stellar just by himself because that slicing maelstrom is so strong. Timelapse is not concerned with what's going on by the Rift Herald. He is much more concerned with funneling gold into his pocket through farming and maybe trying to take a couple of plates here. I don't know if anyone's even going to turn up to this top lane turret right now. It looks like pretty much everybody for Bigetron.
He's just a plate farmer. He and his family have collected pottery for years, Excandrel. We'll swap to the Bigetron POV, as they are indeed leaving that poor plate farmer up there in the top lane to build their crockery cabinet. And in the meantime, Bigetron are collecting some plates of their own. That will be a turret trade during the early game, but first turret does go over towards Bigetron.
Exactly. Important pickup here. Nice little bit of gold input, though I would say that Kai'Sa got all of that gold by herself. So the plates all went directly to her. So that's a lot of gold on a hyper-scaling AD carry, which is good because you're going to need that follow-up damage as the game progresses. Most of your damage will fall off if you are Omega. Kennen has got a lot of damage, but it isn't exactly something that hyper-scales into the late game. Oh, in the mid lane, I think Aurelion Sol's caught out again.
Yeah, big slicing Maelstrom does shut down Henry again. We've been following that matchup as... Turns out Kennen is a hard counter to Aurelion Sol, which isn't something I knew about League of Legends before today.
I would say, in a vacuum, if you have a Lee Sin jungle that's willing to gank you every 5 minutes, or rather,
that might have something to do with it, is what you're saying?
Exactly, every 45 seconds, then yes, because the hard CC is obviously incredibly good. But I think overall, Aurelion Sol should be able to manage a Kennen by himself, at least pre-5 especially. Obviously, if Kennen flash ults you, then you're in a bit of a spot of a bother. But I think overall, I think the real reason that the Kennen's winning so hard is just how much jungle attention he got from his Lee Sin in the early game.
And JLC as well, who roamed down on the Garen very early on. Rift Herald will be summoned here. That's going to be thrown down in the mid lane for Bigetron. They're going to get at least one turret for that.
I think they're going to get 2, dude. I think they are going to get 2. I mean, the backs were coming through, but there's already a lot of pressure in that tier 2 turret in the mid lane.
Yeah, and we don't have the camera on it. We have to watch from player POVs, and we don't have the player POV of that mid lane fight. So we'll just hope we get the pan over. as it does look like so far Bigetron have lost their initial engage. That's a dive in. Henry still down. A deep flank here from our top lane, Olaf, trying to save the day with control down. There's simply no way Bigetron come out of this, right? Flash over the wall. JLC will chase down the top lane matchup in the meantime. You can see that Misfortune cleaning up the fight in the back lines. One revive will be there, but Bigetron lose out. Omega able to fight back after losing their turret.
Yeah, they went heavy on the engage there. Didn't want to lose that tier 2. Aurelion Sol still up. Has a huge stun to work with. That's oh my word, impressive. That was a risky little play to go for those fruits, but they get out nonetheless. And right now, it is Omega in control. We can take a quick look at the perspective of the Olaf here, just at the back of that fight. We already had the engage from Kennen, who does get blown up by that Olaf. But more importantly, at this point, the flank from the Garen comes through. He takes out the Shyvana with the ultimate, which is great because Shyvana is a great duelist in these smaller skirmishes. So her being off the board is a huge loss for Bigetron in general. And at this point, it was just cleanup duty. Not much else to break down. There were a couple of members that had the GAs to burn, and they were able to do so.
Bigetron, I'm sure a little disappointed about that, but given the kill feed, given what should be the gold lead at this point, Bigetron are punching above their weight class. Here Omega trying for a Drake. They will be interrupted. This is Bigetron coming in. Drake already over to Omega, but a huge team fight start as the Shyvana just detonates the back line, and Bigetron may have found their path back into the game. Impressive will out duel 1, but Control, fresh off picking up 2 kills, he's roaming for more.
They're just trying to regen a bit of HP here with the safeguard and the heal that comes from that, and obviously JLC trying to get out of combat for the time being. They've got him, though. They've got him down.
Nicely done. That's probably all we get with Brawl in the area. But huge for Bigetron. They may be about to turn this game right back over. They don't get the Drake, sure, but they win an absolutely critical team fight off the back of Control's Shyvana play.
Yeah, I think the Drake would have been the more important objective. I think at this point, if you're Omega, you have the scaling of the Kai'Sa. The one thing that I have to give credit for, though, that the Alistair from Bigetron is playing out of his mind this game. That engage from Ali, where he caught both the Kennen and the Kai'Sa in a single headbutt pulverized combo that then went into the Shyvana transform. Obviously, then the fire breath on the floor. That was disgusting. And if Kennen dies, you see exactly. And if you see Kennen die early before he can either get a good flank or a good ultimate off, Omega's team fight falls apart, and you saw it just there. There is nothing left in the bank. If you lose the Kennen without slicing Maelstrom, there is nothing left in the bank for Omega. So they have to be so careful about where they're positioning with the Kennen.
Just a really, really solid fight from Bigetron, and we've seen that across this entire game. I don't think there's been a moment, maybe you'll disagree with me, where Omega haven't been in the lead, but Bigetron have consistently been able to drive these team fights close.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. I think Omega have been in control for the majority of the game. It looks like that's slightly turning on its head right now.
Bigetron back in it now.
Yeah, but again, it's going to come down to these next few fights, especially the fight around the Baron here. You know, if Kennen can get a good ultimate off, Kennen can make that happen, then obviously we're going to be a little worried. But right now, the lane pressure is well in favor of Bigetron. They have top lane pushing in. Olaf is heavily split pushing, as you can see right now, just pushing these waves over and over again, trying to keep Garen stuck in this lane, and he's going to potentially even take a turret here. So every lane is shoved in for Bigetron at this point in time, and that is allowing them to get complete control of this area in the river around the Baron.
Around the Baron, there is some action happening. I do want to have an important analysis question for you. As Dakut Medaldor was the Kennen in the last game, who is at 10% battery. We do still see that red bar. How much battery do you think he has right now?
Oh, 12% maybe. It's definitely under 15. It's definitely under 15.
It's real rough. They got to speed run this game. If we go too long, they're going to lose their Olaf. We did see during the skirmish that was happening up there by the Baron, both teams interested in it. Omega definitely trying to force a fight there, but scared to do so without their Olaf. We'll see how that develops.
I mean, I'm loving this from Bigetron. They're just continuing to put the pressure on. The problem that I think that Omega have is that they haven't really got a consistent way to force a fight other than a flash Kennen ult. Like there's no other way to force an engage other than just flash Kennen ult. So if you're Bigetron, you can just sit here pushing these side lanes and look at this.
That's what they're doing.
He might even he's going to get the inhibitor
Baron,
turret.
Shoving the inhibitor turret simultaneously. We'll see if the turret itself goes down. Big silence, and yeah, no contest. Now, can he get away with it? He may even threaten JLC's life. A deep dive in, JLC's got to back away. This Olaf is unstoppable. He's got battery to save. Got to make plays happen. In the meantime, there is a fight developing here in the mid lane. It will be Bigetron trying to force a little bit more aggression here in the bullet time. Arcs over the wall, absolutely shredding the opposing members. A beautiful team fight yet again for Bigetron. And JLC, off the dive back into his fountain, is going to need to try and turn this. You see, instantly melted in the front lines. Henry backing away, kiting away, has control to back him up. This Shyvana will detonate impressive off of the respawn from his GA. And this is another big win for Bigetron. They get a turret and a massive team fight to boot, and that opens up this Drake.
Oh my word, Bigetron have somehow brought themselves back into the game here. I actually don't know why Garen didn't commit to the GA pop of Lee Sin there. I think he was healthy enough to just run in and just either just spin or distract someone and allow Lee Sin to potentially take the fight in their favor. But that you're seeing the problem with the comp from Omega right now is that if they can't flash Kennen ult, they have no way of forcing the fight, and therefore Olaf was able to split push for free. And obviously they knew that they couldn't just go like and force Baron because that's risky versus an Aurelion Sol. And I've got to give credit to Asda Kimila, that guy. I've got to give credit to the Olaf because he knew exactly the limits that he could play with, and they knew that with the Aurelion Sol, you can't do Baron versus an Aurelion Sol. You can't force it because Aurelion Sol just build up a huge stun and stun your entire team on the Baron pit, and then the Baron will do the work for the enemy team. So that was a really lovely play from Bigetron. They're playing great macro here.
You know what is actually great synergy with this Olaf? Charging cable. We'll see if that develops as we get into the second half of this game, and I'm a little bit worried that we might not end this game in time.
I don't know, the scaling of the Aurelion Sol, the scaling of Shyvana and Aurelion Sol is starting to look pretty spicy. So, as I said, I think the scaling is in favor in Bigetron. The longer this game goes, the better it is for Bigetron overall. And you can see that Olaf now pushing that side lane. He's going to start to twist the knife. And is this going to force the hand of Omega? Like, are they going to have to force another fight? Kennen looks like he's going for it in the blue side jungle. Brawl, it's all the way in there. Gosh,
and in the meantime,
crazy across the map.
JLC flash to chase. They're just dead. They're just going to be dropped into GA. There's no question about it. The fight all the way up top does seem to be developing in favor of Bigetron. We don't have the POV on it. They're doing so far so good. You can see all of their members still alive, kiting back around the fight. Impressive will be able to come out on top of the early trading on that devastating Lee Sin, but even they are shut down. And here is the split push this entire time from Asdububdaja as they need to get themselves out of this game within the next 10 minutes. TPs to back them up. Dropped down. We'll have a deep dive from Harry on Alistair with control to back him up. That should be a stun and a kill underneath the Nexus. But no, JLC is able to get away, and Harry has to flash. They're not going to be able to end this game yet for Bigetron.
Oh, a double teleport. Did they sell their boots to go for teleport boots in that scenario to try and make the Hail Mary end play? Like, that was I mean, I don't think he needed to. Like, I don't know if that was necessary. Like, I get the idea. Like, I totally get the idea here, TJ. Like,
it's an easy win, right?
But yeah, but the Olaf was going to die because the Garen definitely hadn't used his ultimate. Like, there was no GA for the Olaf. Unless Olaf's GA. Oh, Olaf's GA. Look how close it is to popping. Oh, I think that was it. I think he was so close to having the GA pop back for him that he was like, I can hold it. Just teleport. I've got GA. But he died before the GA was able to come back online. Look, it's just come back online on the replay. Look how close that GA was to coming back to Olaf. Oh, my word.
Thank you very much to producer Dave for the sick replies. We do have ourselves a Baron developing now. Turn up the volume because we're turning up the action. Right here in the middle of the fight, it is going to be Bigetron trying to dive on in. Already Omega with control of the pit itself, managing to find some big turns from JLC, and Control just can't find the targets for their Shyvana, as this actually looks real good for Omega. After losing the entire mid-game, they found a very important turn, and sure, that GA's back up now, but the Olaf needs to go huge, and it's simply not possible. There's dudes arriving a little late to zone off Omega, so no Baron will be taken. But it is a team fight win.
It's a win. It's a win for for Bigetron. They came out at man
so?
advantage in that team fight. Yeah, no, like it's 3-2 overall. Like they have 3 members left alive. They've killed 3. It's a man advantage for Bigetron right now, which is absolutely insane. But classic schoolboy error versus an Olaf. Look how close Kaiser gets to the Olaf when he comes out of. Doesn't need to be that close. There's no way that you need to be that close.
Melee range this Olaf. What could go wrong?
And Olaf has true damage on his third ability. Like he's just going to slap you in the head that goes straight and for damage that goes straight through resistances. Like there was no need to be that close on the Kaiser. Your Garen could soak the damage for you, and you just need to press your first ability and execute him. I think this is just a
dear.
Yeah,
for the Drake. It does go over to Bigetron. The desperate attempt to steal it was captured there on the minimap, but Omega don't get it away. And yeah, I think O'Dear does rather sum it up. Bigetron, after a really rough early game, have brought this game 3 back in their favor. It's now down to this Baron fight. Bigetron started early, peel off when the contest comes through. Harry pushes forward. There will be a slicing Maelstrom into the back lines. Oh, good bullet time as well. That gets a little bit scary for Bigetron. But they've turned just fine with Dewey on the bullet time to clean up the front lines. And that will be Omega slaughtered yet again. Very likely game 3 into Bigetron's pocket.
Yeah, the team fight just too strong from Bigetron here. There's no way they lose this. They're going to take the series 2-1. Yeah, exactly.
I believe in JLC. He's in the top lane. He won't even be present. As the Nexus explodes, congratulations to Bigetron, taking the series 2-1 in our first BO3, going all 3 games.
Yeah, beautiful play. And again, there was definite advantages with the cannon in the early game, but as I said, the scaling really, I think, lied in favor of Bigetron. They were able to take the game a little bit longer than they should have done, realistically. And I think some of those mid-game team fights, I believe Omega will look back on them and say, well, how did we mess this up? Because, again, they made some pretty unfortunate macro errors, and some of these team fights just weren't played out the way I think they would have wanted them to. But massive credit to Bigetron. They played these beautifully, and especially the macro play from Olaf on that top lane to get the that bot lane to get the bot lane inhibitor turret. Really, really strong stuff from him.
And Dua had a really quiet early game, but as that went on, as we headed into the mid and late game, you started to see those big bullet times show up again and win team fights. And what turned game number 2 turns game 3 again. Bigetron out on top.
So, what exciting first best out of 3 series. The favor of Bigetron Infinity once again. Big shout out to them for taking the first point in the group stage of the Wild Rift Asia Brawl. Hope you guys enjoyed the cast. Make sure to follow our lovely TJ and our lovely ex-Condro as well on social media. They're the caster of the day. They're bringing to you this exciting matches. And then obviously, we're going to the next best out of 3. And then due to our time restraints, we're going to try to get those games set up as fast as possible. The next players coming up, guys, is going to be Soul of Soy versus One Snap Esports. It's very, very exciting. If you're watching right now, and then if you want to stay tuned for the next game, we are going to be taking a break for a few minutes, and we're going to come back for the next best out of 3. Again, Soul of Soy versus One Snap Esports. Who is your favorite team between those two? Anyways, what do y'all think about, I mean, what do you guys think about the last best out of 3 series, TJ and Alexandro? I mean, you think, what could Omega have done better? I mean, they were taking the lead in the game 3.
I think in that game specifically, you kind of saw the limitations of Garen as a Baron laner, especially versus an Olaf. Like Olaf as a Baron laner, in my opinion, is completely top tier right now because of his ability to do exactly what you saw there. Like he's got great team fight presence. He's got the ability to run down enemy carries with relative ease, ignoring all CC. He's got great split push. He can kind of do a bit of everything, and you can see why Garen kind of struggles in that regard. But they needed to snowball off those early game Kennen ultimates that they were getting. Like that Kennen was like 4-0 or 3-0 at one point. Like you should not be losing from that point. You need to get into these dragon fights. You need to dominate them, and you need to make the rotations happen in your favor. But I've got to be honest, Bigetron responded so incredibly